Okay.
Okay, so you guys will be in the shot. I won't be, but you know you can
Okay.
talk to me or the camera,
Okay.
whatever.
And you're sure the lighting is fine?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Yeah, it's a little dark, but we can see you just fine.
Okay.
Those sensors are pretty good these days, you know.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Do we give the date of this thing, or did you do that at the beginning?
I didn't, but you can. Go ahead.
Okay. Today's date is March 24th, or is it the 3rd? 23rd?
4th. I think it's the 4th.
Yeah,
Wasn't my
you're
boss
right.
say?
It's March 24th, 2022.
Good.
We're here at our house on 2848 East Cobray Drive in Phoenix.
Mhm.
And Tim is visiting here from Portland, Oregon,
Yes.
with Lauren and their dog Buster.
That's right, yeah. So you guys have been married for how long now?
37 years.
37 years.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
Yep. Got married in February of 1985.
yeah,
February 9th,
Right.
that's right.
1985.
Mhm. So maybe you can tell a little bit about, let's see, what would be the best way to start? Maybe you can talk a little bit about together, and Mom already talked about this from her perspective, but maybe here together, the decision to have kids. Maybe interesting to hear what happened in the interim between you getting married and me being born, because there was a few years there.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, you know, the challenges of raising kids. And I'd also like to hear about how you stayed married all these years, and if you faced any difficulties,
Mhm.
how you overcome the difficulties,
Okay.
and just what the secrets are
Okay.
to being
Wow.
married for so long.
That's
yeah.
a tall order.
Yeah, yeah, we've got a little bit of time. But
Okay.
go ahead.
So do you want to talk about first the 3 years before Tim was born? We were married. We got married in February
Yeah.
of 85.
Yeah, we got married in February of '85, and we had already talked about, you know, our plans for the future, which included having children, and we had agreed that, you know, it would be ideal if I could quit work after we started having kids and be a full-time stay-at-home mom. So that was what we did during those 3 years. We tried to work toward that goal of trying to live on one income. And so we tried to live on Dad's income and bank
All
mine.
moms and
Did you guys do some traveling during this time? I mean,
Yeah, we did. Let's see. Well, for our honeymoon, we went to Hawaii.
Mhm.
And then we took a lot of trips to like Chicago and around the state. I don't know that we did a lot of travel. We took one big trip when I was first pregnant with you. We went to the New England states during the leaf peeper season. So it was like around September, October timeframe.
Okay.
And that was our last big trip before having kids. And that was a lot of fun. We stayed in Boston a few nights, and then we went to Vermont and
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire, and we stayed at a bed and breakfast inn one night. And it was
Vermont, Connecticut.
Vermont, yeah.
So we flew into New York, wasn't it? LaGuardia?
Yes, we did.
Flew into New York, and then we rented a car, and then we just did that loop of the Northeast states and checking out all the nice changes of colors and that kind of stuff. But yeah, you were pregnant at the time then.
Yeah, I think I had just finished my first trimester, so I didn't have as much nausea anymore, and you know, I was still pretty comfortable.
So you couldn't do any bar hopping then with Tim on board?
Well, we did go to a bar or pub one night, but I didn't drink. Dad had a beer. It was like Samuel Adams beer was just starting to be popular, and I think this Boston place specialized in that.
Yeah,
and,
that's where it's from, supposedly.
Yeah, so I remember sitting in a pub having that one. I mean, watching him drink it.
Right, get your story straight.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, and having like clam chowder and stuff like that. So it was fun. We enjoyed that, and then we would go back to Chicago periodically, like for like family events. We went like for Ray's wedding, his first wedding,
Ray Demmer.
Ray Demmer, and things like that.
Yeah.
I don't think we took any other trips beyond that, beyond state and Illinois. And
But I remember when we were both working, before we had kids again, that I was working for Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, and they had an office at 2002 North Central Avenue. It was at Palm Lane and Central Avenue in Phoenix.
Mhm.
And Mom was working at Motorola at the time at 52nd Street in McDowell. So I would get off work at like 4 o'clock. I would walk down a few blocks south to get McDowell. I would take a bus from Central Avenue in Phoenix to 52nd Street in McDowell. And I would get off, and then it'd be about 4:30, and then Mom and I would carpool it home from there.
Yeah, we used to do that once in a while, we carpool.
So she would drop me off in the morning, she would take the car to work, and then, again, this was all ways we were trying to do it to save money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you had to be more frugally minded with the whole vision of kids on one income.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fun. It was like
Yeah.
a goal. And a lot of times when I would get off at 4:30, we would go to like an early bird movie. And then we'd go out to like Piccadilly, which was kind of like a cafeteria style
Yeah.
restaurant, which wasn't super expensive. And Dad liked that idea because he's like, well, we don't have to turn the air conditioner on until we get home.
Always thinking.
So we would do little things like that. It was kind of a game, but and it was 48th Street at McDowell I was working at.
48th Street.
The big 52nd Street was, kind of harder to get in and out of, but
Yeah.
I worked in like a little satellite
So
office.
Motorola was just a huge complex at the time that spanned multiple streets on McDowell.
Yes.
Yeah, the main building was more the production area and that kind of thing, but Mom, again, worked like across the street, a couple blocks down. They were leasing some space.
Yeah, leasing office space.
48th Street in McDowell.
Yeah.
So we just, but yeah, that worked out. I remember us doing that for a while, that we would carpool it that way, and that way we could just use one car.
Mhm.
And I think that's, so those were the times then before we had kids. Then once Mom got pregnant with Tim, and the day that I was working still at Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, ADEQ, on Central and McDowell, and I got a phone call from Motorola stating that they were looking for an environmental compliance safety type person. So
This is while Mom was pregnant.
this is while Mom was
Yes.
pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah. So they were wondering if I was interested in the job. I worked with them at the state for ADEQ. I was working with Motorola. They were one of the companies that we were regulating for hazardous waste and that kind of thing. So the day I was supposed to have an interview at Motorola was April 13th, 1988.
Oh,
That was the day Tim was born.
wow.
So you had to cancel the interview.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that, yeah.
That's cosmic.
Yeah.
The other interesting coincidence is the guy that was going to interview him that became his boss, he had the same birthday as you.
Wow.
So Dad called and said, oh, my wife's going in labor and all that. And he's like, oh, really? Today's my birthday.
Oh,
So it was all like kismet or whatever.
Yeah. So that was my boss at Motorola, Maurice Chait.
Yeah.
Long story short, I did have an interview.
Had to
And,
postpone it a little.
yeah,
Rescheduled, worked out.
but I did get the job, and I went to work for Motorola, however, at their Mesa, Arizona facility, which was at Broadway and Dobson Roads. The facility's no longer there. They ended up tearing it down, but it was a large semiconductor fab.
Mhm.
And I was in the environmental department there and worked there. And then Mom again was on leave. Then when I started working at Motorola, Mom was on leave from her job. And I think she might have mentioned that in an earlier video that she took a leave of absence.
Mhm.
And so with the increase in pay going from working for the state to working for Motorola, there was a bump in pay there.
Mhm.
And the frugalness that we kind of played with over the last few years, we were able to bank quite a bit of money
Yeah.
and had a nice nest egg built up that we could comfortably live off of.
If we needed to dip into it.
Yeah. Now, when did you buy the Sheena house?
Sheena House we bought in 1985.
Yeah, we bought it in August of '85, so about 6 months after we got married.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the house at 4423 Sheena.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the down payment for that one?
I think it was through the money that we had saved,
Yeah.
because I forget what the house was going for at the time, like 116,000 or something like that.
It was 114,000. We put 20% down, I think.
Yeah.
23,000, something like that, 22,000.
So
Yeah.
At the time, we had money saved up, mainly because also when I moved out from, Elmhurst to Phoenix in March of 1983, I was planning on buying a new car. So I had some money saved up, and one of the cars that I was interested in was a 1984 Dodge Daytona. So it wasn't out yet, it was coming out in the fall of 1983. However, when I moved out here, I needed something to get around in, so I ended up buying a used car, and I bought a 1973 Chevy Impala. So it was a 10-year-old car. It had like 47,000 miles on it, so it was owned by some old couple. And 10 years old, 47,000 miles. And I remember buying it for $1,200. And I bought it at a Buick dealership in Scottsdale. And intention was to buy that car, just something to get me around until I can order one of these new cars. But then again, I met Mom. We ended up getting married. We ended up buying a house.
Yeah, priorities changed.
Yeah.
So priorities changed, and the car that I was going to hang on to for 6 months, I ended up keeping it for 7 years.
Yeah, wow.
But again, it was a real money saver because, paid cash for the car, there were no payments, and it was basically a dependable car. It just was bad on gas mileage, but so we had that car, and then Mom then ended up buying another car in 1984 Buick
Yes.
Skylark. So she got a brand new car. So we had my 73 Chevy and her 84 Buick Skylark, and it worked out well. Worked out well. So that's how we had the money for the house down payment. And again, the reason we put down 20% at the time was you didn't have to pay the
Private mortgage insurance,
the
PMI.
PMI part
Yeah.
of the thing. So we thought, we got the money, let's put it down.
Yeah.
But interest rates were high at the time when we bought the house. Interest rates were hovering around 16%
Wow.
mortgages. Fortunately, when we bought the house, it had an assumable loan on it. It was it an FHA loan? Federal Housing
I
Administration?
can't remember. I just know that it was assumable, which meant if you had a mortgage and you were selling your house to somebody, the new owners could take over your mortgage.
But that interest rate locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of times the amount left on the mortgage was less than what you needed, so you would take out a small second
Second mortgage.
mortgage to, pay for the rest. So that's what we did.
So we had two mortgages, the assumable portion that we assumed from the people that we purchased the house from, and then our down payment, but still we didn't have enough to pay for the house, so we had to take out another second mortgage at a higher interest rate. And again, it was probably around 16%. So the combination between the two was lower than what we could have got if we just got one mortgage.
One brand new mortgage.
And, but that was a lot of money back then.
But we were able to refinance about a year or two later into one mortgage when rates started to come down.
It started to
again.
drop.
Yeah.
So,
Just during Reagan years, right?
Yeah.
so that was the house on Sheena. And we, like Mom said, purchased the house in '85, and we stayed there until 1996, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
until Tim's birthday.
That's right.
Until Tim's birthday, and then we moved
August
here
13th, 1996, 8th birthday was the day we moved.
So we moved here to this nicer neighborhood, 2848 East Cobray Drive in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Right.
And at the time, it was in 1996, I remember we paid $180,000 for the house. So again, we had equity in the other house when we sold it, and we ended up taking out another mortgage. But you lock into a rate. We didn't get an adjustable rate mortgage. We were a little leery of those because they went up and dropped and went up every year. So we thought, let's just lock into a rate.
Predictable, yeah.
So we did that. But all along, I think a big part of our success was, though, also saving money when we could and starting early by putting money into, when I was at the state, since it was a government agency, they don't have a 401k, they have what they call a 403b fund. So still similar type of thing, but and Mom started saving in her 401k at Motorola, so by socking money away early, we knew time was on our side.
Yeah.
that even if we couldn't put in a large amount, we kept putting small amounts in. And as we, got pay raises through the years, we would sock more in, and that really paid off after a while. It really started to grow.
Yeah.
So, so we did well, but we've been married, like I said, 37 years, right, Gary?
Yeah.
And it's been a good 37 years, right?
Yeah.
And just like with everybody, we have some good times and some bads. There's always some struggles, but all in all, it's been a good 37 years.
For sure.
Yeah.
Were there any like really tough times? I mean, when kids are born, there's extra stress and,
Yeah, I think that, I've kind of seen both sides of the situation. I think it's hard when you're the sole breadwinner. I think that was a big burden for Dad. And so I would try to make things as, easy as possible for him at home. I didn't always do the best job, but I know that was hard for him. And then years later, our roles were reversed and I was working full time, and then I really saw, how it is, but I guess the tricks to having a good marriage is, I think having faith, and I think having been brought up Catholic, it's kind of ingrained in you that you don't give up easily, you stay and you work it out. And I think that's a big thing. I think having a sense of humor makes a big difference, which is Dad's specialty. And I think communication is important, rather than just stewing or whatever, you talk about your problems and that kind of stuff. So those are things that I think have helped us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, I think it's worked out well.
And you guys are a perfect illustration of that.
It's very wonderful kids.
Yeah.
But just, kind of keying in on what Mom said, it was stressful. I spent 4 years at Motorola, and then I went to work for Chrysler Corporation at their proving grounds where they tested out future model cars. They had a large facility in Whitman, Arizona. And fortunately with Chrysler, it was another bump in pay after leaving Motorola. And since it was based out of Michigan, they paid us good wages. Being out here in Arizona, people used to always say, oh, you're getting paid Michigan wages living in Arizona that had a
Arizona economy, yeah.
So that worked out well, and there were profit sharing bonuses and things like that. But unfortunately, I think with a lot of people, you get some bosses that,
Are jerks.
oh my God, they were jerks. You just felt like it was never good enough. You didn't feel like you were appreciated, and you were doing a good job, but it was never enough. And unfortunately, I had a few jerk bosses at Chrysler. And again, being the sole breadwinner, that does put on, I think, a little more stress on you that you know that you're the only income earner, you're providing to pay off the mortgage and support your family, so you almost feel in a way that you're
trapped, probably.
Trapped in there.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it was a good paying job, and I think just by trying to stick it out, and I always had the opportunity to go somewhere else if it was really that bad.
Yeah.
You shouldn't feel like you're stuck. There are other opportunities out there.
Yeah, you can look for work elsewhere within the company, outside the company.
So fortunately, Chrysler spent 16 years there, and it worked out well.
Yeah.
So we were able to continue to save money, and we had the 3 kids, and like I say, Tim came along, Caitlin, and then when it was time for a third one, I think Mom was more leaning towards a third kid. I was like, I don't know. 2's a lot.
Especially these two.
You buy a car, it fits 4 people really nice. 5, it gets a little tight.
Right. Back seat in the middle with your feet on the hump.
So when I was working at Chrysler, Mom and I went to Coronado, I guess with the family, right?
No.
Oh, it was alone? I don't remember.
I'm not sure the story you're telling.
Oh, when you got pregnant with Patrick.
That we were just alone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Mom told us more earlier,
Oh,
It was the first time we had been alone without kids since Tim was born.
Yeah.
Special occasions.
It was
Special occasion.
Yeah.
So, sure enough, Mom got pregnant
Yes.
and Patrick was born, and
He helped complete our family, and we
Yeah.
were thrilled.
yeah, all
And
three
as I
kids.
said before, I thought, oh, my dad was kind of on the fence about it. So when I told him, he's like, it's just one more person to love. So
Yeah.
he was really,
Yeah,
he was such a blessing.
Yeah.
so, but yeah, I think that's the scoop when it comes to being married, that you just have to be understanding. Yeah.
Compromise a lot too, right?
Yeah,
Give and take.
and sometimes you have to you think, well, I did my half of the work, you have to do your half. Sometimes you have to do more than what maybe you think is fair
Yeah.
for people to, I mean, if you're being taken advantage of and you're always doing the majority of the work, that's not right, but it's give and take. So some days I felt, geez, I'm doing a lot of stuff. I did grocery shopping, I did this, I did that. And Colleen's, she's got 3 kids at home that she's raising and taking good care of those kids and doing volunteer work online. And so that I think was the big thing, that you can't feel like it's always got to be 50-50.
Yeah.
Some days it's 60-40 or 80-20 or maybe 90-10.
Or 1090.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was a big factor.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we're doing good,
We're doing good.
right?
Yeah.
Anything else to add, or should I take a break there? You think that's good?
Yeah, I can't think of anything else to
We
add.
covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm.